go to these things, but it's
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's so kind of you.
was I in New Jersey? I was in New Jersey, but I zoomed in and enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. That means
Shabbat Shalom. Folks, just wait a minute or so. We're waiting for the rest of the Bar Mitzvah family, the Fox family, to come in. So just stay tuned. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Temple Ahavat Shalom. Welcome to all of you here in the sanctuary, and thanks for your patience tuning in from at home. It is wonderful to have you join us as we celebrate Shabbat. My name's Rabbi Matt Berger. I'm joined on the bima with our soloist, Allison Rosoff, right behind me. This is Graydon Fox Bar Mitzvah Shabbat. So we're pleased to have him on the bima along with his parents, Jay and Chris, and Graydon will be leading a few of the prayers later on during the Shabbat service. Down at the keys on the piano, Joy Katzen-Guthrie. You'll be able to follow along with the service right on the screen behind me, or in your prayer books. If you turn to page 13, you'll find the words to Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai, sing a song to God. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai. Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Bashru Miyom Liyom Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Bashru Miyom Liyom Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Bashrum Liyom Liyom Yeshuato, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Bashrum Liyom Liyom Yeshuato. That was funky coming out of that that one right there. I guess it finally started working. Yep. I'll bring it down for you. We were wondering why that monitor wasn't working beforehand, and we just figured out why. I think it's time for a new one. So we will continue now singing Light These Lights as we prepare to light the Shabbos candles.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say
Pleased to invite to the bima at this time Chris Fox and Betty Strauss to help us light the candles. You'll find the bracha, the blessing, on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We say congratulations, Mazel Tov, to you on this great Shabbat weekend where we celebrate great in becoming a bar mitzvah. Feel free to take a seat. I'd like to share with you a poem by one of my favorite liturgists, Ruth Bryn, entitled For the Blessings. For the blessings, God, you lavish upon us in forest and sea, in mountain and meadow, in rain and sun, we give thanks. For the blessings you implant within us, joy and peace, meditation and laughter, we are grateful. For the blessings of friendship and love, of family and community, for the blessings we ask of you and those we cannot ask, for the blessings we recognize and those we fail to recognize, for the blessings of heroism, of freedom, of memory, of vision, and of hope, for all these blessings which surround us on every side, O God. Hear our thanks and accept our gratitude. Going to continue with the singing of Shalom Aleichem, this arrangement written by the late Debbie Friedman. Words are on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borechem leshalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Marchuni l'shalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedkem l'shalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, say peace to you, Melachim, messengers of the Most High. Our segue to Shema and its blessings is found on page 26, words of praise called the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah b'yama divrach yurtei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayir dekol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uv'yizman kariv v'imaru amen yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olam me'amaya yitbarach yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yiromam v'yidnasei v'yidhadar v'yidaleh v'yidalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damira be'ama v'imaru amen.
Let's rise now as we sing the words of the Baruch Hu, the call to prayer.
Yai
Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Yai lai lai
Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Let's continue together a prayer for the evening, Ma'ariv Aravim, found on 31. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are
one. Open up our eyes.
Open up our
Teach us
eyes.
how to live.
Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. free to be seated. We'll continue chanting the V'ahavta, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul on page 36 in the prayer book. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshokbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotachot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Let's continue on 39, a reading before our Song of Freedom. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we are taught, forever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. We'll continue with a prayer for protection and shelter, Hashkivenu, this arrangement by the duo Ma Tovu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. Hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Uvros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Uvros Aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us between our wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. All right. I'm going to move this over, and we'll have the pleasure of having Graydon lead some of the service, beginning with Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, which you can find on page 46. I'll invite all of us to rise for these opening prayers of the Tafilah.
Should I sing this one? Adonai, Sifatev Tifta, Ofi Yagi Tehilataha. Adonai, open up my lips, so my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, Ve'Elohei Leah Pa'el, Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Alion Gomalt Hasadim, Tovim V'nei Kone Hakol, Ve'Zoher Haste Avot V'Imahot, Ume V'Geula Livnei V'Nehem La'aman Shemo Behahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagim Baruch atah Adonai Nai Magim Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. That's fine. So we can go to the camera. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mehaye HaKol Atah Revelishia Mehakel Hayim Veheze Mehaye HaKol Bara'am Yerabim So Meth No Flim Verofe Holim Umatir Rasurim Umakayim Amunato Lishnei Ifar Mihamo Haba'al Givarot Umidom Le Melech Melech Memit Umakayim Umatzmiya Yeshua V'ne'eman Ata Lehayot HaKol Baruch Ata Adonai Mehaye HaKol
Kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'gedoshim b'chol yom yalu chasela Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Feel free to be seated, and let's say Yasher Koach. Well done. It's great and beautiful leading of those three prayers. I'm going to scoot this over. I would suddenly become very tall if I started standing on that one. And we'll continue now with three of the intermediate blessings. First, for the holiness and sanctity of Shabbat, Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat, and a prayer on 56 asking that God's presence always remains with us and with Zion and Israel. Baruch atah Adonai HaMachazir Shechinato L'Tzion. And finally, words and a prayer of gratitude. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ucha na'eh lehodot. And the Tafilah always ends with a prayer for shalom, for peace, which you can find on 60. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha, grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever, for you're the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael, ba shalom. Let's take these few minutes for our own thoughts and prayers, and Allison will lead us in the singing of Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata u'melech Haron lechol hashalom. Ki ata u'melech Haron lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We'll turn now to words of healing and the traditional prayer, Mishabera, God, the one who blesses those who are in need. You'll find the words in the prayer book on page 253 as we call to mind and to heart the following individuals with prayers of healing and sustenance. In this Shabbat, we think of Yonatan Reuven ben Rivka, Charlie Burke, Lisa Cargile, Janice Kane, Marie D'Alessandro, Eddie Deerfield, Evelyn Edelman, Heather Felser, Sue Fischelo, Harry Fleisch, Denise Freifeld, Mitchell Freifeld, Jerry Gottlieb, Leah Gottlieb, Doris Harding, Arthur Maller, Bob Masarski, Arnold Miller, William Miller, Hal Rosenberg, Stephanie Ross, Eddie Seligman, Arlene Charlotte, Betty Slavny, Jeff Stark, and Adam Weinstein. If there are any other names to add, feel free. Thank you.
My father, George Stark. Mi sheberach avotenu mikol habracha avotenu mikol habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
I'd like to begin with a little gem of wisdom, which I think is quite suitable for this time of year. And I quote, "If you want to discover demons, take sifted ashes and sprinkle them around your bed. In the morning, you'll see something like the footprints of a rooster. And if you want to see demons, take the afterbirth of a black she-cat, the firstborn of the firstborn, roast it in fire, grind it into powder, put some of this in your eye, and you'll definitely see demons." Now, if I asked you the source of this pearl of wisdom, you might think it's a book of witchcraft or sorcery. But then you'd be mistaken, because it's actually found in the Talmud, the great body of Jewish law and lore, which dates from the 5th century of the Common Era. And mind you, it's not buried in some obscure part of the 60-plus sections of Talmud, but it's actually in one of the most frequently studied sections called Barachot, or blessings, where the sages outline the rules and mitzvot, sacred obligations, of how to pray. I'm sharing this description of how to experience the supernatural because this is obviously the Shabbat before Halloween, which may well be observed by more American Jews than even Purim, our costumed holiday where we celebrate the heroism of Esther and Mordecai. And also because not so long ago, the tales and teachings of the supernatural provided an explanation for all sorts of events which couldn't be easily explained, be they mysterious or unfortunate. You might be surprised that Jewish tradition is filled with stories of wandering spirits, marriages with demons, vampires, werewolves, and Dybics, or possessed souls. But it's true. Moreover, these legends help generations of oppressed Jews find an outlet for their fears and their anxieties. And while these tales might hold less prominence in the modern day, they still invite us to invoke and explore. Because, as the scholar Harold Schwartz put it, the dark side of the human psyche is as evident today as it was in the time of our ancestors. This continued fascination with the dark side, which is so prevalent in television, novels, and film, coupled with the scary costumes and the sugar high from the candy, explains the enduring appeal of Halloween with all of its spookiness, skeletons, and ghosts. This is all to say that Jews go boo too. So in this spirit, I'd like to speak about two of these supernatural beings found in our tradition. The first is Lilith, and the second is the Dybic, or possessed soul. Now, Lilith first appears in the Bible in the book of Yeshaya, Isaiah, the prophet. Her name is likely Babylonian in origin, meaning of or belonging to the night. Lilith, according to rabbinic legend, is Adam's first wife, and she was only supplanted by Eve at a later date. In subsequent appearances in literature, Lilith is described as an ancient witch or a demon, created, we're told, at the same time as Adam and from the same stuff, clay or earth. This is unlike Eve, who we learn in the book of Genesis is created from one of Adam's ribs. Over time, Lilith deserved a well-deserved reputation as a very independent woman. Why? Because she refused to be subservient to Adam, and she chose to leave him. To which I say, sei gesund, good for her. As the story goes, God asked her to return to the Garden of Eden at Adam's request, but Lilith, of course, had chutzpah, and she said no. And while Lilith is only a legend, this would make her technically the first ever feminist. Instead, she goes to the other side, so to speak, and decides to couple or mate with the great demon called Samael. This is all true, trust me. Lilith morphs also into a kidnapper of children, a demon who kills people, and an inveterate seducer of men. In other words, she's painted with a very broad brush by the rabbis as being evil, not good. Her legend, however, only continued to grow through the centuries. Biblical archaeologists have found images of Lilith on ceramic bowls and amulets that you would wear around your neck as early as the 6th century before the Common Era, and they were written in ancient Aramaic. The purpose of the inscriptions on the amulet or on the bowl they were spells that were meant to ward off Lilith. And while many of these depictions of Lilith can be chalked up to patriarchal misogyny, the mere mention of Lilith over the generations brought chills to many men and women throughout the Jewish world. In the modern day, the legend of Lilith continues, and it's fertile ground for comic books. For instance, both DC and Marvel both have a character named Lilith. She's found in literature, and she's also found in fantasy or horror films, where she's depicted as either overtly sexual, demonic, or just plain evil. On the flip side, however, in a good way, she's the inspiration for Lilith magazine, created in 1976, which is independent, Jewish, and, as they say it, frankly feminist. And wouldn't you know it, coming out this very evening on Prime Video, there is a film called The Dybic, which is in the Hindi language but translated into English. Also, in this latest edition of the Lilith periodical, it's a quarterly magazine now that comes out, so this is the summer 2021 edition. There's an article that's called Pagans, Priestesses, and Witches, but Jewishly, in which the author, Ariel Silver-Wilner, reminds us that for as long as there's been feminism, there's been feminist reclamation of threatening female archetypes such as Lilith. And it goes on to tell us that, and this was a new term for me, Jewitchery, has grown in popularity. And the Jewitchery Instagram and TikTok accounts, they don't have 1 or 2 followers each, but a little over 24,000 on each of these platforms, which is no small number in and of itself. Moving on from Lilith, the second supernatural being that I'd like to explore, I really wanted like dark orange lights for this whole thing, but we've got the white LEDs. The second supernatural being is the Dybic. In Jewish mythology, the Dybic is an evil, possessed spirit that attaches itself to a living person's soul, which is very creepy. Dybic is actually a Yiddish word that's taken from the Hebrew verb dabak, which means to adhere or to cling. So the possessed soul clings to the living soul. In essence, Dybic is a dispossessed soul that arises because of the sins of the deceased. And it's been said that Dybics can cause psychological distress and can even lead to the creation of a separate and alien personality in the beginning. We've seen lots of horror movies which have similar themes. Now, the Dybic arose out of the fear and superstition of tradition-bound Jewish villagers in the shtetl in Eastern Europe, all the way back in the medieval period. But over the course of generations, Dybics, along with other supernatural beings, came to be an integral part of received Jewish tradition. I'll share the following from a 20th century memoir that was found in Eastern Europe, where the diarist shares the following. In cheder, or school, when the teacher was away in shul, in synagogue, for afternoon and evening prayers, the other students and I would sit in darkness, huddle near the oven to get warm, and tell scary stories about spirits who throng the synagogue after midnight and the tricks they play on anyone who has to sleep there. So much so that a beggar would rather sleep on the floor of the humblest house in town rather than enjoy the honor of sleeping on a bench in the congregation. We would tell stories about shadim, which is a Yiddish term for demons, Dybics, the possessed souls, as well as Lilith, end quote. Generally speaking, Dybics are possessed souls that just can't move on. In response to this challenge and this dilemma, Jews figured out how to exorcise Dybics from the possessed, to redeem the lost soul, or if all else fails, send it down to heaven. So much for those who thought exorcism wasn't a Jewish thing. The legend of the Dybic survived well into 20th century Europe and beyond. For instance, between 1913 and 1916, the well-known author and playwright S. Ansky created the Dybic, which was also called Between Two Worlds, which is still considered a seminal play in Yiddish history and Jewish theater. Ansky was a researcher as well. He spent years traveling between the different shtetls, the small little towns and villages throughout Russia and Ukraine, documenting all of these stories that he heard firsthand, many of them from within Hasidic Jewish communities. The world premiere of the play The Dybic was performed in Yiddish. It was staged by the Vilna Troupe in Warsaw in 1920. A few years later, it was translated into Hebrew by the writer Chaim Nachman Bialik, and it debuted in Moscow at Habima Theater in 1922. And some of you might be familiar with the 1937 film, The Dybic. And I already told you about the Dybic, The Curse is Real, if you want to check it out on Prime Video starting this evening. All this to say that Halloween is a great opportunity to share all of the countless Jewish legends of ghosts, ghouls, and demons, stories about the mythical Lilith, the Dybic or possessed soul, and there are many, many more. It allows us to put a Jewish twist on a widely observed secular holiday. And at least to my opinion, it serves as an example for all of us that Judaism continues to be relevant and present in popular culture. So whether you're the type of person who will happily greet trick-or-treaters on Sunday evening with a smile, or you're the type of person who shuts off all the lights in your house and pretend that you're not there, we should all give our kids something to get scared about by connecting them, and by extension, all of us, you and me, to Judaism's scariest stories and colorful characters. Because Jews go boo too. We'll continue with Aleinu, the Adoration. It's found on page 282. Please rise as the ark is opened.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, ורור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני נלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Be seated. You'll find the words to Mourner's Kaddish, also words of praise on page 294 or on the screen behind me. On this Shabbat, we first think of families in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days mourning their loved one. We remember Marcy Bunn, wife of Johnny Bunn, and Daniel Ippolito, husband of Michelle Ippolito. To these names, we also add and mark the yahrzeit, the anniversary of passing of a loved one during the season. On this Shabbat, we remember Sylvia Barles, Esther Regent, Renee Becker, Joan Becker, Sarah Berman, William R. Buchanan, Marcia Burrows, Matthew Burseth, David Kaplan, Gerald Charkins, Abraham Cooperman, Pauline First, Gerald Greenman, George E. Kulik, Joyce Leibowitz, Dorothy Lippman, Arthur Mandel, Rhoda Morrison, Salome Rosenberg, Leonard Seligman, Carl Silber, Charles Smith, Ruth A. Stroyman, Isidore Turner, and Rochelle Weiner. And this is the third year anniversary of the tragedy at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'd like to recite the names of those individuals who were tragically killed that Shabbat morning. Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Danielle Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. I'll invite all of us to rise to recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mivarach le'alam u'lamei al-maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudashah brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Hey shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. O say shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace in the heavens cause peace to descend on us, Israel, and the world, to which we say amen.
V'imiru, 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 amen. Vimiru, Vimiru, Vimiru. Amen.
Feel free to be seated. And Graydon, love to invite you up to the bima. You're going to help lead us in the Kiddush, which you'll find before you and also on page 5 in your prayer books.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher peri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kadishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'avahu v'ratzonu hilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishi. Hu yom tehilah l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-shabbat. To life, l'chaim. For bread, our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. All right, great, and well done again, Yasher Koach. We have some Shabbat announcements for this evening. Many thanks to Allison and to Joy for beautiful music and accompaniment, and our tech crew in the back for the streaming and camera work, Mike and Nicole Skalka. Our Sisterhood Judaica shop is open and Hanukkah ready, and soon it will be opening on Shabbat evenings as well. Feel free to take a look. Next Friday, our Lador Vador Intergenerational Shabbat service has a slightly earlier start time at 7 p.m. It'll be featuring the 5th and 6th grade classes. The Social Action Committee, Sisterhood and Brotherhood are sponsoring an end-of-life presentation November 10th on Zoom with 2 dynamic speakers to help us navigate this important subject. Sisterhood is also presenting a Zoom program November 11th at 6 p.m., anything but traditional potato latkes. Our observance of Kristallnacht and Veterans Day will take place Friday, November 12th at Kabbalat Shabbat services. And the Interfaith Thanksgiving service will take place Thursday, November 18th at St. Alfred's Church right next door at 7 p.m. And I'll invite all of us right after services this evening to join us outside for a nice Oneg Shabbat, a chance to talk and schmooze after the service. We're going to conclude with our closing song, Lo Alecha Hamlacha Vigmor. It's found on page 341, or you can just follow along right on the screens. It's a selection from Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, which is a section in the Mishnah. It's the first legal text after the Torah, and it means you're not needing to complete all the work, but neither are you free to abstain from it, meaning we all have to do our part in social action and tikkun olam, making the world a better place through what we do each and every day. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo ata ben korin leivatel mimena, velo ata ben korin, velo ben chorin leivatel mimena, velo hata ben chorin. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, velo ata ben korin leivatel mimena, velo ata ben korin, velo ata ben korin leivatel mimena, velo ata ben korin. And we'll conclude with our prayer for health and well-being, the importance of wearing a mask around others, especially when we're out and about in public. You can follow along right on the screen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al shmirat hanefesh, for the mitzvah and sacred obligation to protect our lives and the lives of those around us. Mazel tov once again to the Fox family. We look forward to seeing Graydon become a bar mitzvah, being called to the Torah tomorrow morning. And to one and all, Shabbat Shalom, and thanks so much for joining us.